this is Paul. Yes. You know, there's what's known as hate crimes. And I know it's a Class C felony in the state of Washington. But for any attorney to intentionally violate their attorney oath, yeah, I would say it's a hate crime. Yeah. Now, for any judge that says, well, I know they do it, but there's some bias, motivation, maybe even motive to get paid. Yeah. Knowing that you're violating the actual necessaries of the law. Now, for all those in law enforcement that do the evicting, yes, that do the arresting, looks like you're participating in hate crimes against the United States of America. Now, I've told you about malicious harassment. And then more recently, the state of Washington had updated their malicious harassment to hate crimes. Yeah. Now we have malicious harassment. Yes. Vexatious court proceeding. Yes. And then there is malicious use of abusive process. Right. And then there's the bar associations. Yeah. And then the oath of admission or the oath of office and the oath of candidacy of each and every judge. Yeah. I'm going to want every bar association. And I know you don't have time to really investigate, but my thought is once you graduate from that ABA recognized school, yeah, and you sat for the bar and you passed the bar and you swore and it was subscribed, yes, and then you became a judge. Now, there's hate motivated intimidation, yes, hate crimes against persons, yes, comparative hate crime laws in various states, yeah. Now, let's say you do know about sewer service, yes. I'm the victim of hate crimes, yeah. What's to say that I can't just do an end run around the Bar Association and as a citizen of the United States say, well, I'm going to sue every attorney that I have the availability of the evidence of, yes, any bias, prejudice, discrimination, any bribery or corruption. And I'm going to sue them for violating their oath of office. Yes, kind of a contractual obligation. Now, there's that vulnerable class of individuals known as the suspect. Yes. Now, a hate crime is a crime offense against a person or property motivated in whole or in part, yes, by the process server or the landlord biased against my race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, ethnicity, gender, or gender identity. Yes. Now, I know you say, well, you owe me this money, and since I'm going to contempt court so that you go to jail so that you know that you have to pay me, phew, I'm going to say that any attorney that doesn't have actual proof of serving the individual, yes, so they could appear in court, yes, they could explain to the judge their actual economic condition, yes, whether or not they have a job, assets, whatever their personal problems are, yeah, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to sue your bar association for being active in the hate crimes against those vulnerable class of individuals that are low income, yes, that are minority, that are men or women. And see, I I put this here about my signature. Yes. Uh-huh. It says here, this is my signature. Now, when you rent a place, you sign an actual document. Give me the rental agreements with each of those landlords that got that default judgment. Yes. See, I think that the landlords violate the landlord agreement at the time of them knowingly not serving the renter. Yes. I'm suing them. And then get me the attorneys that represent them for breach of contract. Yes, he is. And then for all the collection companies, yes, Spokane County, yeah, I'm suing them for not having proof of service before issuing default judgments. Yes, he is. Now, Every time that I sign an agreement for secured and unsecured debt, I have the right as the individual receiving the credit, to make sure that the creditor always did what the conditions of the agreement were. So for every time that you contempted court and somebody went to jail, I'm going to want the actual agreement for the money that was lent to them. For breach of contract, for refusing to acknowledge the contractual obligations of the judicial process necessary to obligate payment of the actual contract. Now, for every dissolution of marriage, my marriage certificate was issued from the United Nations. Yes. And as much as I told you this is my signature right here, right there, that's my signature. Every time that you awarded a default dissolution of marriage without actual proof of service, I'm going to sue you for violating the conditions of issuing marriage certificates. In each and every state of the United States. We do not issue a marriage certificate, without proof of service before we dissolve the obligations of the contract of marriage. And for every attorney that thinks that, well, we can issue marriage certificates without enforcing the contractual obligations of the actual certificate itself, I'm going to sue you and have you put in prison. Now, for every judge, I'm going to have you sued and put in prison for treason or misprision of treason. Because every time you put your signature on a contract, there is a breach of contract for not having proof of service. Sewer. Now, I'm going to want my sons. And I'll sue every judge of the United States for having any knowledge of treason. Any knowledge of felony. Any knowledge of forgery. Any and all knowledges of fraud. Hate crimes. Civil rights violations. And breach of contractual obligation to have verifiable proof. Of court hearings. Now I want you to give me my sons. Do you understand? Breach of contract.